security checkpoints, vehicle checks, that sort of thing. So that's what a lot of our training was you know, what to look for when you're checking a vehicle or, you know, checking a house, what to do if you need to run, you know, get into a, you know, a fight in a town. So they'd have little mock towns set up, and we basically, you know, run through these little cardboard and makeshift towns.
Now, was that basically in Mississippi, or was that previous?
It was in Mississippi and California.
So from Mississippi, did you go?
We spent a month in California.
Yeah. And that was right before your deployment then?
Yes, that would have been the month before deployment.
Okay. And then when did you actually deploy to Iraq?
June.
June of 2005 or so. Okay. So what was that experience, the actual deployment overseas? You're with your unit. Could you describe your sentiments, apprehension?
Going over, the actual act of going over?
Right.
I think by then we were all so sick of sitting around waiting, not knowing where we were going to go. We had heard rumors of where we were going to go in Iraq, and at first they told us, oh, it's, you know, you're going to this place, it's not going to be bad, don't worry about it, you know. And then they would come back the next day and just change all that. You know, we're going in to the bad part of town. And then it would change back the next week, so you didn't know what to believe, and you're kind of sick and tired of all the rumors, and just wanted to get over there already.
Right, to where you were supposed to be assigned.
Exactly.
So, and where did you, where were you assigned? You know, for your first assignment over there.
We were assigned to Camp Havania in the Al-Anbar province. It's between Ramadi and Fallujah. So we're right in smack dab in the middle of the Sunni Triangle.
Okay, so that was a very active area?
Oh yes, extremely.
So did you go right into there, or did they send you like into Kuwait and then took you into the
Right, we went into
theater,
Kuwait,
or?
and then we flew into another base, and then from there it was a short drive, basically across a highway into a much smaller base.
So when you entered into Kuwait, was there a holding period there? Were they?
Yeah, we basically sat there and waited for basically what was to be our plane into Iraq.
But was it to get you acclimated, or?
That's what they said, but I think really it was just they backed up on, you know, people coming and going on leave and from Iraq, and we basically just sat there. I mean, I don't know what was happening, because we basically sat on our cots waiting for the you know, load up sign.
So what time frame left to about July? Is that right?
Yeah, about July.
July, okay,
Yeah,
of 2005.
Late
still.
June, early July, yeah.
Okay. So so you arrived in theater, and could you describe you know, your living quarters? Were you in tents? Were you in buildings?
To answer that, the base actually has a lot of history to it. It was an old Royal Air Force base, actually during World War II, by the British up into 1950s is what I heard, but I don't know how true that is. And so there was a lot of buildings, but most of them were gutted. You know, they'd obviously seen a lot of combat, but we stayed in those buildings.
Oh, okay. So it was military, yet somewhat comfortable.
Well, I mean, it was, these were dilapidated buildings. They were falling apart. So they weren't exactly comfortable, but it was better than a tent.
So could you describe like a normal day, activities while you were here?
Probably wake up. I mean, it's hard to say, because
I'm sure there's not a
it changed from day to day,
right?
right? And but if you just had, we would do 2 months of missions, and then you would do 2 weeks of guard duty, and then you would do 2 more months of missions. So when we were on mission duty, you know, it just really depended. You got sleep when you could between missions.
So is this your home base then?
Yes.
Were your missions away from the base for 2 months at a time?
No. I mean, well, our missions were basically, you know, you would leave via Humvee from the base into theater. Every once in a while we'd have to go somewhere else to maybe an outpost and that sort of thing. But you'd only be there for maybe 3 days to maybe a week.
Okay, so you weren't like just roaming around
Right.
for a while. There was an opportunity to get back to the base.
Right.
Okay. And then security, you said for 2 weeks. Is that base security there?
Yeah, you were on base security. Our base was too small to have like a permanent base security. Altogether, there was probably maybe 200 or 300. No, it's maybe 1,000 people. Maybe 1,000 people on the.
So it's rotating security force there.
Right.
And was that all just U.S. troops, or was it a combination?
No, it was all U.S. troops. There were Iraqi army there, but they were actually on a different part of the base that was secluded from us.
Okay, so you didn't have joint.
No, the Marine Corps that was staying in our base were responsible for, you know, the mutual missions between us and them, and we didn't really involve with them too much.
So, could you describe what a mission would be?
Sometimes you'd get intelligence that there was a weapon stash somewhere. They want somebody to go out and get it. We'd go out and get it. Sometimes they would say we have important personnel in the area that we want them in custody. So you'd have to leave in the middle of the night and go get them. Sometimes, you know, with force. A lot of times it was presence patrols. You know, just walking through the town, you know, letting people know that we're still there.
Did you run into a lot of conflict with the Iraqi citizens?
Yes, a lot. Yeah, these were Saddam loyalists. There was no way they would want you there. There were a few places, and there were very few that were actually friendly to us, and the reason being was that they weren't Sunni, and they were Shiites that had been living in the area, and some of them were Kurdish as well. They were the vast minority, but they actually felt protected for once.
So, when you say you would go out to get the weapons, how would you do that? What was the patrol like?
You basically set up a cordon, so you'd have people kind of stationed in the vicinity. You'd shut down all the roads, nobody in, nobody out. You'd basically pull all the people into one little area, and then you kind of break them off and do your interrogation as needed. Meanwhile, while that's going on, you know, you have some of the lower enlisted personnel out in the fields with minesweepers. So a lot of times they would bury it. So sometimes it was just thrown in a bush. You know, this area was right off of the Euphrates, so it still had a lot of vegetation. So it wasn't always easy to find, you know, stashed weapons.
So how would you, what was the measure of success for missions? If you obtained the target that you went out for?
Frankly, if everybody came home alive, we really didn't have, you know, maybe our leadership did, but for us it was basically, you know, go out there, do the mission. If we find them, great. You know, if not, we'll stay out there until we find them. But primarily, you know, at the end of the day, we want to bring everybody home.
So, and working with your, you know, fellow soldiers, I mean, was that the common thought was, you know, go out and make sure we all come back together? And,
yes, absolutely.
You know, and that is a successful mission for you.
Absolutely.
Everybody did. So, okay, so how long were you stationed here then?
It'd be about a year to a year and a half.
Okay, so, and were you in pretty much the same region the entire time?
Yes.
Did you have to go further out? How did it change over time, I guess is what I'm...
It really didn't. We were in one spot, and the reason being was that the base was just so small that they really couldn't. They were having a hard time finding